In the 6th century BC, a Greek mathematician founded a secret religious community where members swore oaths of silence, shared all property, and followed a strict set of rules. One of the rules was that you could never, under any circumstances, eat beans. Another was that certain mathematical truths must never be revealed to outsiders. When a member of the community proved that a particular kind of number existed, a number that violated everything the cult believed about the universe, they allegedly drowned him for it. Throughout history, people have formed groups around ideas so powerful that members were willing to die for them or kill for them. 4 groups that crossed the line from belief into something darker. Not all of them saw it coming. Pythagoras of Samos is remembered today as a mathematician, but in his own time he was closer to a cult leader. Around 530 BC, he founded a community in Croton, a Greek colony in southern Italy, that was part philosophical school, part religious order, and part political organization. Members were called the Pythagoreans. They lived communally, surrendered their personal property, and followed a list of rules that ranged from the mathematical to the bizarre. They believed that numbers were the fundamental building blocks of reality, that everything in the universe could be expressed as a ratio of whole numbers. They also believed that beans contained the souls of the dead, and that eating them was a form of cannibalism. The Pythagoreans divided themselves into 2 groups, the mathematikoi, who studied the inner teachings and lived under strict rules, and the akosmatikoi, who attended lectures but lived outside the community. The mathematikoi were forbidden from eating meat, wearing wool, or picking up objects that had fallen on the ground. They studied geometry, music, and astronomy, and they believed they had uncovered the hidden structure of the cosmos. Then one of them found something that broke the system. A mathematician named Hippasus demonstrated that the square root of 2 could not be expressed as a ratio of whole numbers. It was irrational, a concept that did not exist in Pythagorean philosophy. If an irrational number was real, then the entire foundation of their belief system was wrong. The universe was not built entirely on clean ratios. According to multiple ancient sources, the Pythagoreans took Hippasus out on a boat and drowned him. Whether the story is literally true is debated by historians, but what is not debated is that Hippasus was expelled from the community, and that the Pythagoreans treated irrational numbers as a dangerous secret for generations afterward. The community itself did not survive much longer. Around 509 BC, a local politician named Cylon, who had been rejected for membership, led an attack on the Pythagorean meeting house in Croton. The building was set on fire. Many members died in the flames. The survivors scattered across the Greek world, carrying the teachings with them, but never rebuilding the commune. The next group believed that faith itself could undo a conquest. In 1889, a Paiute holy man named Wovoka had a vision during a solar eclipse. He said he had been taken to the spirit world and shown a future in which the earth would be renewed, the buffalo would return, and the white settlers who had taken native lands would vanish. To bring this future about, his followers had to perform a specific ritual, a circular dance performed over 5 consecutive days, accompanied by songs, prayer, and fasting. Wovoka called it the ghost dance. The movement spread with extraordinary speed across the western tribes, the Arapaho, the Cheyenne, the Shoshone, and dozens of others. Tribes that had been confined to reservations, stripped of their hunting grounds, and forced into dependence on government rations, saw in the ghost dance a promise that the old world could be restored. By 1890, the Lakota Sioux had adopted the ghost dance and added their own element, sacred shirts made from cotton and painted with symbols that they believed would stop bullets. The U.S. government watched the movement's growth with alarm. Indian agents on the reservations reported that the dancing was intensifying, that thousands were participating, and that the rhetoric was becoming openly hostile to white authority. The government classified the ghost dance as a potential uprising and ordered the arrest of key leaders. On December 15, 1890, Indian police attempted to arrest the Lakota chief Sitting Bull at the Standing Rock Reservation. A scuffle broke out. Sitting Bull was shot and killed. 2 weeks later, on December 29th, the U.S. 7th Cavalry intercepted a band of roughly 300 Lakota men, women, and children at Wounded Knee Creek in South Dakota. The soldiers were there to disarm them. When a deaf tribesman named Black Coyote refused to give up his rifle, some accounts say he did not understand the order, others say the gun was expensive, and he wanted compensation. A shot went off. The soldiers opened fire. Within minutes, over 250 Lakota were dead, including women and children who had fled into a nearby ravine. 20 soldiers received the Medal of Honor for the massacre. The ghost dance did not survive Wounded Knee. The shirts did not stop bullets. The next group believed they were boarding a spaceship. In March 1997, police in Rancho Santa Fe, California, entered a rented mansion and found 39 bodies arranged neatly on bunk beds and mattresses. Every person was dressed identically: black clothing, black Nike sneakers, and an armband patch that read, "Heaven's Gate Away Team." Each had a small bag packed with clothing and identification, as if prepared for a trip. They had all died by ingesting a mixture of phenobarbital and vodka, then placing plastic bags over their heads. Heaven's Gate was founded in the early 1970s by Marshall Applewhite, a former music professor who had been fired from his university position, and Bonnie Nettles, a nurse he met in a psychiatric hospital. They taught that human bodies were temporary containers and that the Earth was about to be recycled, wiped clean by extraterrestrial forces. The only way to survive was to leave the planet aboard a spacecraft that would come to collect those who had reached a higher level of consciousness. When the Hale-Bopp comet appeared in the sky in early 1997, Applewhite told his followers that a spaceship was hiding in the comet's tail. He said the comet's arrival was the signal they had been waiting for, and that shedding their physical bodies was the only way to board the ship. 38 members followed him. They recorded farewell videos in which they appeared calm, even cheerful, describing their deaths as a graduation to a higher plane. The group prepared the event over several days, dying in shifts. Those who went first were covered with purple cloth by those who had not yet taken the mixture. Applewhite was among the last to die. The group's website remained online for years after the mass death, maintained by 2 surviving members who had been instructed to stay behind to answer emails from the public. The next group operated in the shadows for centuries. The Thuggee were a network of highway robbers who operated across India for an estimated 600 years. They did not simply steal from travelers, they befriended them. Thuggee gangs would join merchant caravans and trade routes, traveling alongside their targets for days or even weeks, gaining trust, sharing meals, and learning the details of their cargo. When the moment was right, usually at a prearranged campsite, they strangled their victims with a cloth strip called a rumal, buried the bodies, and divided the goods. The killings were not purely criminal. The Thuggees believed they were performing a sacred duty to the Hindu goddess Kali, the destroyer. Each murder was a ritual offering. They had elaborate rituals surrounding the act, specific prayers, a communal meal after the killing, and designated roles for who would hold the victim and who would pull the rumal tight. They also had rules about who could be killed. Women, certain castes, holy men, and people with physical disabilities were traditionally exempt. Initiation into the group required participating in a killing, and members passed the trade from father to son across generations. British colonial authorities estimated the Thuggees killed between 50,000 and 2 million people over the centuries, though the higher estimates are disputed. The word thug entered the English language directly from their name. In the 1830s, a British officer named William Henry Sleeman launched a systematic campaign to destroy the Thuggee network. He used informants, offered pardons to members who testified against their comrades, and tracked down gangs across the subcontinent. Over 2 decades, Sleeman's campaign arrested over 3,400 Thuggees, hanged over 500, and transported the rest to penal colonies. He dismantled the network almost completely. The last known Thuggee trial was held in 1882. 6 centuries of organized ritual highway murder ended by a colonial bureaucrat with a list of names and a willingness to turn members against each other. A math cult that drowned a man for discovering the wrong number. A dance that was supposed to bring back the buffalo. A group that packed their bags for a spaceship hidden behind a comet. A network of killers who strangled travelers as offerings to a goddess for 600 years. 4 groups that believed so completely in something that the belief itself became more dangerous than anything outside their walls. Subscribe and hit the bell. Next episode, a lawmaker made stealing a cabbage punishable by death. BareBones. Simple stories about the weirdest things that actually happened.